All right, and we're back. We have loaded the gear. We are here with the sleeping Spiro. We are headed out to the Gulf. Got everything on board to do some monster slaying today, so we're going to kind of run deep Gulf and find a few wrecks. Hopefully we can find those grouper that we're after today. And we're just doing a meat run. Hopefully a quick out and back. It's around 7:10, 7:20 right now, so we've got plenty of time for the day. We'll see you out there. All right, we've made it. We're here at spot number 1. Give you a little. Can't really see bottom here, but we're looking at around 25 to 30 foot depth. Hopefully the current's not too bad. We're gonna find out once we get in. The seaweed around us isn't exactly flying by, so hopefully no news is good news, and we got a little visibility when we get down in there. We're gonna do some gearing up, and we will see you soon. Welcome back underwater, everyone. So like I was saying, we're about 25 to 30 feet depth, and unfortunately this day you could only see about 5 to 10 feet down from the surface. Once you actually took a dive and got a little closer, you could see what you were working with down here. This is a beautiful wreck that I'm not exactly sure what it used to be, but now it's a steel pile and there is so much to it. We probably edited down 4.5 to 5 hours of video of diving on these wrecks. There wasn't a whole lot of action to be had. There were fish everywhere, but none of them would really come close, and the second you got near them, they would dart into, you know, different holes of these wrecks. So for this first spot, I'm definitely just gonna let it kind of run raw footage so you can enjoy and just kind of check these out with me. We took one fish from this first spot, and unfortunately we didn't get it on camera, but I hope you enjoy. So we were here looking for black grouper, and this is the only grouper we really saw all day. You can see his mouth right there. That is a Goliath grouper. They are very protected in the Keys. They just started a lottery system where you can put in for a tag or permit to take one in a slot size, which means there's a minimum and a maximum size that you can take them. So this is the second wreck that we dove that day. It actually comes up to about 10 feet from the surface, so it's easily visible from the surface itself. There is an actual hull structure still there, and then you have probably like 200 to 300 yards of just debris off to the side. We spent a few hours here, and it was a really beautiful dive. Really beautiful. You can see that snapper slides back into the wreck. And he stops right there to check me out again, and I take my shot. In hindsight, and I thought about this the second I pulled the trigger, there's so much debris down there that I definitely should have dropped the band and maybe shot him with a little less power, but you can't do anything once that trigger is pulled. You know. Thankfully, it was a pretty easy retrieve on my next dive. This is it. I came down here and was able to get my hands on it and get it free. A little bit of convincing, it comes right out. When I look over the side, you can really get a feel for how much actual debris is out there. It is quite a lot of structure, and it definitely holds some fish. We spooked out a pretty nice black grouper from this spot. Unfortunately, we didn't really get good footage of it. Just got, you know, a dust cloud as it waved goodbye at us. That was about it. So I dispatched that fish pretty quick, and we're back to it. Always do the brain and bleed. Not only is that to dispatch the fish as quickly as possible after shooting it and put it out of its misery so it's not feeling any pain, that is also for us. When you dispatch a fish like that, it reduces the amount of chemicals the fish releases into their body once it stops the stress, basically, and that improves the quality of the fish overall. So, I learned from a friend of mine to always gut my fish on the spot. It just kind of gives back to the spot. And this wreck was really cool because you can actually swim through in a couple parts of it. So this is actually swimming inside of the wreck. Always be very careful whenever you're doing something like this as well. You never want to kind of get caught up, like your wetsuit can get grabbed or something on your weight belt could get snagged on it. So you always want to be very careful doing something like this. I thought it was super cool. It was really neat. It was like the 4th or 5th part of the hull where you could actually swim directly into it. Unfortunately, it wasn't holding any fish, but I've seen in a lot of videos and a lot I've seen on my different dives that you can actually swim to the edges of the hole, and that kind of creates like a pocket at the end, and sometimes that actually holds grouper. Today there wasn't much besides these angelfish and these smaller grunts and dog snapper, but pretty cool little clip. Nothing's home, unfortunately. Had a lot of potential to hold, though. We're going to be back later in the winter to try to see if there's anything else home out here. Sometimes the cobia like to hang out on these wrecks. So we're moving on to our third spot now. This is something I'd been checking out on the chart plotter for quite some time, and I had seen some structure on the map and just kind of checked it out. This is probably like the 10th or 12th dive we did on this spot. Just poking around, and we see this absolute pile of black grouper. You can see them dart off everywhere from left to right. There's some coming from the top down, and unfortunately I didn't have the breath hold to pursue them, and I really wanted my buddy Sleeping Spiro to take a black grouper. We had taken a couple earlier in the year while diving with each other, so you know, I really wanted to put him on a fish today, which is the main goal. But unfortunately, at this point in the day, he had started having some inner ear problems as well, so he could only get probably about halfway down. This was a really, really cool dive. I've never seen that many black grouper hanging out in the same spot before, and let alone they all didn't leave immediately. Most of them ended up swimming into the hole. I didn't necessarily get great footage of it. I could barely see it from the surface, but many of them actually swam into the coral head. I'm going to slow this down a little bit here. At the top of the screen, you can actually see like a 150-pound green sea turtle hanging out under those rocks right there. So right here, I saw a grouper swim in here, and I go to line up on him, and poof, he's gone. Straight back into the hole. Just left a dust cloud for me. A lot of times when you're looking into a ledge like that, you have to be ready to pull the trigger at any moment. These guys are super shifty, and especially once you've spooked a group of them like that, they are very, very wary. So the second you point something at them or you look directly at them, a lot of times they will spook back into the rocks. And I said it in my last few videos, but these coral heads are like Swiss cheese mazes. If you look right off the edge of those rocks, you can see a really nice black grouper laying on the sand right there. So I let Sleeper know that, hey, look, there's a grouper down here. I want you to try to take a shot at it. So he does his best to get as far down as he can. He identifies it, lines up, lets it fly. You can hear the shaft rattle right here. He actually did connect with this grouper, but unfortunately the shot was too low, and he hit it on the side. So he did slightly hit that grouper, but unfortunately he got away. And you can see from the sand clouds left and on the right here that it ran off. We hate doing that, but it is unfortunate. It happens sometimes, you know, especially when you can't get all the way down to the bottom to really take a steady shot at these guys and you're firing from the mid-water column. Stuff happens, unfortunately, but so this is probably around 20 dives into this spot. I went to try to check out some other holes maybe that would possibly hold some grouper. I went to check this guy out again, and he was still sitting right there at that spot, and I missed my opportunity. You that happens. And very rarely do a grouper give you more than one chance at that. Usually that guy would be gone. But, he kept poking his head back out. Check me out. It's the rock right next to that one. I was hoping maybe one of those bigger grouper had ended up in that hole, so maybe we could try to make for another easier hunt. Unfortunately, these guys were being very, very crafty today. Due to the GoPro being, a couple inches over my head, you see that dust of sand right there. That guy had come back out to look at me again. So I don't get a good look at this, but so this grouper was laid into that rock, and he had his head kind of shoved into another hole further back in that rock. I figured if I put my gun down there and try to get down and place the shot on him, I could probably get at least behind the head shot and get control over this fish before he really wedged himself into that back hole. But when I came down right here, he was still wedged back there, and as I'm trying to get better shot placement, I didn't want to make a sloppy trigger pull on this guy. He slid all the way into the front of that rock and completely disappeared, which in and of itself is pretty amazing. These larger black grouper, they can really fit in some really tight spots. You can see a little red right there. He was right on the edge of being keepable. I don't like taking fish that are smaller, especially we don't see a whole lot of red grouper these days that are monsters by any means, so I very, very rarely take those fish. They have to be very, very healthy, and I have to have seen quite a few of them that day in order to take them. There he is again. He's just kind of hanging out. As you can see, this one rock really holds quite a lot of life. I'm going to try to go out here in a couple months, see if we can do it again. So I couldn't really tell what this was. The GoPro gets a better picture of it, but somehow a moon jelly wedged itself up in there. And if you can see where my flashlight's pointed, there's a very large grouper tail back there in that hole. On the other side of that moon jellyfish, I could see the top fin line of a black grouper, but I couldn't tell how big he was.
I'm gonna do the most ill-advisable thing in the world with your gun right now and tail shot this grouper. Okay.
I do not recommend tail shotting fish unless there's no other choice. I really wanted to get a black grouper this day, so we figured why not. So I put Sleeper's gun down there. He has a different style flopper than mine, so we decided to use his. Line up. Let it fly. And miraculously, I was able to put a lot of pressure on this fish. I knew it was a well-connected shot. I was able to pry him out very easily. I don't think it'll ever happen like that again for me, but it did this day.
He was not stoked about that.
No, it didn't sound like it.
So we got a nice black grouper on the boat. And this is actually the next dive after we dispatched that fish and Sleeper started heading back to the boat with it. It's been said before that action brings action. I came down to retrieve my gun and possibly check out and see other places of the hole. Maybe one of those grouper came out and I noticed this really nice hogfish swim in. So I was able to pick my gun up, make a couple grunts at it, let it fly, find my mark. It's a big hogfish secured. know, these guys I take even less than black grouper. I've actually shot a couple of these this year. This is probably like my fourth one that I've taken. This year we've seen a very, very large rebound in the population of hogfish. A couple years ago they increased the minimum size to 16 inches, so it's very few and far between that you see really, really nice ones, but we've been diving these Gulf areas and we have seen quite a few of them this year, so I feel a little bit more comfortable taking them. And man, they are very, very delicious. Very delicious fish. Very nice. Unfortunately, this is pretty much everything we did for the day. This was 5 hours of footage edited down to about 20 minutes. It was pretty much just a Gulf Reef tour. And, you know, we didn't exactly slay the fish that day, but we got a couple nice ones. A couple fun things that happened. I appreciate your time. Thank you very much for watching. We'll be dropping another episode every third Thursday. The next one is a cobia trip deep in the Gulf where we're doing some rod and reeling. I really, really enjoyed making this video and showing off that pile of black grouper because I really have never seen that. Thank you very much for your time, and we'll catch you next time on Adventures with Jimbo. Thanks for watching.